Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Leader Studio. My name is Todd Cargus. I'm your host, and I get to have wonderful conversations with fantastic leaders in interesting spaces. And today I am here to talk about trust and psychological safety in STEM with my friend and colleague, Brian Duff. Brian, I would like to ask you to introduce yourself because I know you're going to do a much better job than I will.
Todd, thanks so much for having me on the Leader Studio. It's great. Any time to have a conversation with you. My name is Brian Duff. I'm based in Vancouver. I'm Irish. I've been here for 14 years now. So my background's actually in cell biology. I have a PhD in cell biology from Technological University of Dublin. I came here in 2012. Working in preclinical drug development, moved into L&D in the biotech space, was in there for over a decade, and then retrained as a coactive coach in 2024, started in 2024, certified earlier this year. So I'm very new to the coaching space. But yeah, a lot of time spent in STEM and learning and development in STEM.
Right. And cool. I didn't know about a lot of that stuff. So that's really neat. I'm a little intimidated now.
No, don't be.
Anyway, thank you. Thank you so much for joining me, Brian. I'm delighted to have you here, and I'm really, really glad that we get to sort of pull on your expertise, obviously as a coach and in the spaces that you're working now, but also that really, really rich background in science and technology and all that scary stuff. So let's start this way, right? We're here to talk about trust and psychological safety in STEM, which makes me think that there's a reason to talk about trust and psychological safety in STEM specifically. What's your perspective on this?
Yeah, it's trust and psych safety in STEM. It's really interesting. When you first talked to me about coming on here, I thought this would be such a rich topic. I think taking a step back first, scientists, this might surprise some people, but scientists actually have a very hard time saying, I don't know. And it might surprise some people because for a lot of us, I don't know is the place of great curiosity and digging into that. But I think, a lot of people who have worked in STEM started in academia, where there was a lot of emphasis put on knowing the answer, being perfect, becoming the subject matter expert, the SME in their very specific niche, this corner of scientific knowledge and being the world expert in it. So you get that far, it becomes a vulnerable place to say, I don't know. And I think if anyone who's listening, you, Todd, you maybe experience this. If you know any scientists, a lot of them are uncomfortable saying those words, I don't know. They'll say, they might, skirt around it. Well, the field thinks XYZ. The I becomes we. You might even subtly hear, well, we don't know. It takes the pressure off a little bit. And I think that's the place that I'd love to start this conversation around, trust and psychological safety.
Because that space, because what I'm hearing as you describe that is, depending on the profession that I'm in and sort of what that background is, the expectations or my perceived expectations, the word that pops up for me is identity, and this comes up over and over again, right? It says something about me and my identity when I put an I don't know into the space.
Yes.
And that can be scary, terrifying, challenging, whatever, right? Just because of sort of the thing, right? The context.
Exactly the context. I think the environment dictates how it will be when you put the I don't know out there.
Got it.
Right, and that's why we're here today. Psychological safety. It's a safe space. That I don't know can be very liberating. It can be extremely liberating. I remember the first time a peer of mine said it in a meeting about we were bringing a new system online, and she shared, I don't know how we're going to do this. Oh my God. I thought she knew everything. I thought, she was
Right.
leading this project. She was project manager. She was leading this
Mhm.
project. She was going to take this new system and how she knew. And when she said she didn't know, it felt wonderful. It felt like, oh, we're going to collaborate on this. But if that's not a psychologically safe place, you're probably not going to hear I don't know a lot.
So that's fascinating to me, because there's a community. So here's what I think I'm hearing, right? There's a community of people, right? Scientists, technologists, whatever, that are challenged by not knowing, right? Because it means something, right? That there's a currency in certainty, and and something became possible in that moment that you described, right? For you, the technologist, for you, the scientist, right? Something became possible that made you feel like it was okay.
Yeah.
What was that? Like, I think I heard it, but like, what? Like, let's get picky about that.
Yeah.
That sounds interesting to me.
To what was the thing that made it okay to?
What created that psychological safety in that moment for you, the scientist, in that moment?
The first time I was there, I think the risk of saying nothing was bigger than the risk of saying something for me.
Oh, okay.
So if I stay quiet here,
Uh-huh.
what's the cost?
Right.
Versus what's the cost if I speak up here? And in that moment, the cost of speaking up was, okay, maybe they might laugh at me. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think I'm going to get fired. I don't think there's going to be a lot of retribution.
Yeah.
So there was something about that environment, of which I was only one factor,
right,
made it safe for me to speak up and to say,
right.
Actually, I don't know here. I don't know. And it's not just I don't know. It's I don't know. I need help. I disagree. Those kind of things. Being able to say those things in a safe space in STEM can be very liberating, but they're not always present.
Right. And they're so before we jumped onto the call, right, we started talking about sort of that shift. And I think this is the right time to bring this up, right? The shift from being an individual contributor, where my currency is about how well I know how to do the thing, and leading a group of people whose job is to, be good at knowing how to do the thing, and the skill gap in those two spaces.
Yeah.
Right. Which is, I think, something that you work on, right, quite explicitly in your practice. So let's talk a little about that, because I think there's something important in there too.
I think the first thing is the skills that got you the promotion from IC away from the lab to become a manager. They're not the skills that you're going to need to thrive as a manager. That's the first thing I want to name. And the second thing is, yes, as an IC in STEM, if you're analytical, if you actually have good hands, good technical hands, if you are getting those error bars really narrow, you're going to be told you're great. You're really competent. You're probably going to be put forward. The problem is when you become that manager and you continue to try and lead with those skills, you become the super doer. You become the person who can't delegate, who won't delegate. You become the person who can't make a decision unless you have 95% certainty.
Right.
And then you become the bottleneck. So all of a sudden, I'm doing the same things I was doing a year ago. How am I not succeeding? How am I not getting lauded the way I did before?
That's really that's interesting, right? Like, what got me there isn't going to get me here or get me there.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
There's I'm noticing Jennifer mentioned something in the chat. We're going to go back a little bit, but just to, like, the cost of not speaking up being a really powerful frame. And there's so thank you for that, Jennifer. And there's like, it's a palpable thing, isn't it? And because I don't think that's just STEM.
I don't think that's just STEM. My experience is STEM, and my experience of examples even outside of my world, a lot of them are in
Right.
STEM. Like there's been people not who haven't spoken up on NASA space programs, and rockets have blown up and people have died.
Ooh,
You know,
yeah.
and you know that's the absolute catastrophic cost of not
Hmm.
speaking up, but it happens.
Hmm.
And not more realistic, but more common cost of not speaking up is little, what we would call little pinches become big, costly crunches. You
Mm.
know, if we don't speak up, early, in data collection for a
Hmm.
scientific project that you're working on. So,
Hmm.
if you're working on a 2-year program and you notice something in month 3, but you're like, I don't feel I can speak up.
Hmm.
You start hiding. And this is what
Hmm.
happens. Data gets hidden, data can be corrupted. It's always
Right.
going to rise to the top,
Uh-huh.
ultimately. And that's where things get really, really costly and things get bad
Yeah,
quick.
and what's really interesting to me too is like if we tie that back to to sort of the shift from individual contributor to leader, and
Mm-hmm.
like that cost of not speaking up, right? It all of a sudden can be amplified, it seems, when it's when it's in the context of a leadership or management space, and it's even
Yeah.
more difficult because there's more uncertainty, because like I'm moving into the fog. I don't know what the right next step is, and I'm not supposed to know what the right next step is.
Exactly. I'm not so I'm a lot of it is I'm trusting my gut. So it becomes that discomfort
Hmm.
of, coaches on the call will know, like that discomfort of leaning into that visceral feeling of, oh, I don't know what to do. But that's where the
Yeah.
magic is, especially for a leader. So
Hmm.
now you have your leader cap on, you
Hmm.
have your manager cap on. You're no longer, for want of a better term, following. So it's your responsibility to really model
Hmm.
this. I think that's the key here. So how do
Hmm.
you model that? Um, Create that space so that people do feel that there's a trust in you and there's a trust in the environment, that they can surface bad data quickly, for example.
Hmm.
You know, they're not going to do it unless they see it from the leader.
Yeah, which means if I'm in that leadership position, I need to do the work. Like there's
Yes,
there's things that I need to do or be to be prepared to sort of wear that mantle, that is more than just, oh, I'm going to have people reporting to me and they're going to be responsible. Like it's just understanding sort of the logic around, like, what is that? There's more to it because there's inner work.
exactly. And moving from the I need to know it all to
Hmm.
I need to create that environment where
Hmm.
we get curious. It's that
Hmm.
shift into curiosity, um, and it's being vulnerable as a
Hmm.
leader. Right? It's not easy to, hey, I spent all these years knowing all the answers to all the things, and now I need to lead this team and say I don't know, or I
Hmm.
need help.
Hmm.
That's a vulnerable place to be. And just a note on that vulnerability. Um, Vulnerability, what some people do, they overcorrect and
Hmm.
they'll go way too far on the vulnerability side and they'll overshare.
Hmm.
And they, oh, if I'm a bestie with my, reports, the
Hmm.
direct reports, they'll trust me. They'll trust me. I'm
Right.
one of them.
Right.
And that pulls away from your credibility then.
Hmm.
So it's like vulnerability with intentionality
Yes.
is
And I
key.
like that. Like the why am I, it's so interesting because I know we're talking about STEM and I don't want to take us too far away from that.
No.
But I keep noticing parallels in other places, right? So it's like, yes, this is true in STEM and maybe it's amplified in STEM, but the same thing happens in other places. Like, I remember, so I'm going to tell a personal story, a short one, right? But I remember the first time that I was asked to lead a team of people who did things that I couldn't do. And I remember at the time thinking, oh my God, I have no business leading this team of people. I can't do their job. And frankly, if I had a dime every time I had a conversation with, a new leader who says something sort of the same way to me, it's well, I wouldn't be rich, but I have a lot of dimes. And I think, the last time I was having this conversation with someone, the thing that I think that I said was like, well, if that were true, then no one could ever be the president or the prime minister, because there's no way that you can keep all of this stuff. Like, they can't just sort of step in and do anyone's job, because it's too complex, it's too big, there's too much. And being able to be in that space of uncertainty and not self-destruct is is really true. And I think what I'm hearing is, and it's particularly pernicious in this space where there's a capital around rightness, around the lack of vulnerability, right? Like, I am, I have the right answer, and that means I'm good at my job. Which is very different than I have an interesting idea, and that means I'm good at my job.
Completely, you nailed it. You've absolutely nailed it. It's you have to. It's something I mentioned earlier. These people have spent years, sometimes decades of their life being conditioned to know and to be the best in their field. So to completely let go of that, Todd, it does not happen overnight. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes trial and error. And the other thing, and I may be, crucified for saying this, but the scientific method, I feel, has a lot to answer for as well. So the scientific method, right?
I know. Great. So let's go.
And you as a scientist, you have a hypothesis based on research or whatever. You have a hypothesis. I'm going to test these things, change one thing at a time, and see what happens to my hypothesis. I think it's full of confirmation bias. So as a scientist, you are, you're tied to your hypothesis. I'm sorry, but most people are tied to it, and they don't like saying, my hypothesis failed.
Got it.
So, and then if you tie all of this into trust and psychological safety, I think it becomes very seductive to, I won't go as far as falsify information, although scientists have falsified information, right? Falsified data
to support a hypothesis.
But even taking a step back from that, there's maybe even subconscious bias about how they set up experiments in order to get the preferred outcome. Right. So it's something I think that scientists really have to, I think it should be included in their training in undergrad, postgrad. It's so important, because finding out what doesn't work is equally, if not more important than finding out what works, if that makes sense.
It does. And what comes up for me as you're talking about this is, like, earlier in this conversation, you'd mentioned that, like, another sort of factor that's involved is credibility. And I think, go with me this, I think I know what I'm going to say. There's a, like, it feels like there's a belief, there's something, a mythology, I don't know, that knowing the right thing is attached to credibility. And what I think I'm hearing you say is that being open to the possibility could be more like being open to an unbiased, like being less attached to the outcome of a particular hypothesis, is actually where the connection to credibility lives. But building that bridge hasn't happened really well. Is that kind of it?
You absolutely nailed it. And I would say, with even the way you framed it, knowing the right thing, you've already determined that the thing is right. Right. And so that's a flawed hypothesis in my mind. So knowing the thing is going to advance the field. But if you've already kind of put some kind of leaning towards what you're trying to prove, it's going to be, it
almost sounds like, it sounds a little Buddhist, if you forgive me, right? Like, like, I'm putting the thing into the world and I am unattached to the thing, right? It will be there, and it isn't good or bad or right or wrong. It simply is. And we need to let it is, so that whatever the is just is. And then watch.
And then watch what happens and get curious about it. It's such a paradox, because if anyone thinks of science, technology, engineering, all of it, it's based on what don't we know,
right?
And it's the basis is curiosity, right? And somewhere along the line, we've lost that curiosity, and we've already predetermined what the answer should be in order to be perfect and right, and all of those great things. Yeah. And it all plays into trust and psychological safety. And I love that you brought up credibility again, because like I very recently learned about the trust equation. It's from The Trusted Advisor, a book by, I'm going to mess the author's names up now, Meister, Green, and Galford.
Yep.
The Trusted Advisor. And they say that trust is equal to credibility plus reliability plus intimacy, all divided by self-orientation. So credibility is, how much does this person know, like their knowledge base, and are their words truthful? Reliability, are they going to do what they say they're going to do? Are they going to come to the meeting? Are they going to get back to me when they say they're going to be? And then intimacy is kind of linked, I think, to psychological safety. Todd, how safe do I feel to say anything I need to say to you in this space? So they're all, on top of the line, below the line, self-orientation. So each of those things above the line adds to trust or trustworthiness. Below the line, self-orientation. So the more you can do all of those things above the line, but if you're just there for yourself as a leader, it's going to dramatically lower the trust number.
Okay.
The lower the self-orientation number, the more you're there for your team and to support and to enable your team, the higher the trust is going to be.
Right. And what I love about that is that it's that space where, like, in every sort of manager, leader, like people who lead people who have a specific expertise coming in, and then, like I said, have to lead teams of people who can do things that they can't do. There's always, not always, often in my experience, there's always a click. Like there's always a moment where it's like, oh, there it is. Oh, there it is. Now I know now I can do that. I think that's what you're describing, because there's that moment where it's like, you know what, I can't do what you do.
Yeah.
But there's things that I can do that'll enable what you do.
Yes.
And there are things that you can't do for yourself, because that's my job as your manager, your leader, whatever. And that's the moment where it's like, oh yeah, okay, well, I can't be the scientist that you are, because I don't know that science, right? But what if my job is to enable the conditions for your success?
There's the shift right there. Yeah. Yeah. And it takes time.
Safety. Yeah. Well, it's hard because it's a different way to evaluate your own performance.
Completely. You have been the doer all through your career, and now you're becoming the maker.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be a shift for you.
You've been the doer and now you're the maker. That's really subtle, but I like that. That's cool. Huh.
And it's hard to measure, right? It's hard to measure. How are you measuring that for yourself? Yeah. And I think people get hung up on that, and they get hung up on that in STEM fields, because we love measuring things.
Can I put you on the spot? How would you measure it for yourself?
I think going back to self-orientation, keeping that low, you have to measure your success through the success of your team. And if you're enabling them well, and if they're able to surface bad, quote unquote, bad data early, and if they feel empowered to have open dissent in a safe place, you're doing all the right things. if everyone's agreeing with you and nodding their heads at you, and you're getting everything you expect data-wise, that's dangerous.
Yeah. That's really fascinating. And honestly, this whole conversation, what I'm loving about it is that I'm seeing how it applies in STEM and how it applies in virtually any other organizational situation, because there's similarities, right? Maybe it's not as amplified, like the cachet around being right, having the right answer, but there's also, like, we all like to be right. Like, you go to, like, whether you studied English literature or philosophy or engineering or science, right? Like, we're graded the same way at school, right? Like, you get the right answers, you get the wrong answers, and there's something good about getting the right answers. We're celebrated for it. Right. And a lot of folks, it's reinforced at home by the very best of intended parents. So yeah, it's so interesting. So what that, I don't know, what it leads to me is an opportunity or a sort of a, like, what could I be curious about? Like, if I'm noticing the thing, and maybe this is a good way to sort of start to wrap this up, because I'm looking at the time and realizing that we only have a couple minutes left. So maybe what I'll do, instead of going blah, 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 is I'll pass it over to you and say, so with all of this that's here in this space, right? What's the thing that I should be looking out for as a STEM leader, or whatever? Like, what's the best takeaway for you?
Silence and agreement. Look out for silence and agreement, or silent agreement.
Okay.
Because I feel like that's an orange, if not a red flag, as a new leader. And get curious about it.
Right.
If people are quiet, like, what's there for you? Like, really invite comments. What's there for you? What do you think? And ask the next obvious question. Oh, you agree? Tell me, say some more about that. Why do you?
Yeah.
What is it about what are you agreeing with?
I love that. I think that's important. The takeaway that I would add is and ask for help, because there is that really uncomfortable space between being an individual contributor and having a currency around knowing, and stepping into leadership or management or whatever, and just understanding that there's a lot of not knowing that happens in that space. And in the same way that you didn't come out of the box knowing all the knowing that in sort of the individual contributor space, you're not going to step into that space just knowing how it works and feeling comfortable out of the box. Absolutely. So maybe normalize that and ask for help, because there's lots and lots of ways to do that. Get curious about what's uncomfortable, and be okay with the discomfort, because that's what I think
exactly.
is important too.
That's it, Todd. That authenticity will build your credibility as a new manager.
Yeah. Even if it doesn't feel like it will, because sometimes it
absolutely.
Like
if it's feeling wrong, you're onto something.
Yeah. Excellent. Brian, thank you so much. It has been an honest delight having this chat with you today. Thank you so much for joining me here. If folks want to get a hold of you afterwards, what's the best way for them to do that?
If folks want to get a hold of me, I'd love to chat more about this and all things trust, psychological safety. It would be cuspofchangecoaching.ca is my website. That's probably the best way. Or LinkedIn, You've tagged me on LinkedIn. Great way to get in touch with me.
Sounds good. And for anyone listening, we'll put that URL to Brian's website in the show notes on LinkedIn and on YouTube. And we'll make sure that happens. I'm Todd Cargis. You know how to get a hold of me. I'm at toddcargis.com, beinghumanleaders.com. And that's a wrap for today. Thanks, Brian.
Fantastic, Todd. Thank you, Todd. That was wonderful.
It really was. We should do this again. I had a good time. I could talk to you for a long time.
Absolutely the same. Awesome. Have a good day, my friend.
You too. I'm going to close down the stream now. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Bye-bye.